help them figure out what the fuck is
Oh man.
I don't know what's happening.
Deshaun and Steven Jackson.
Oh, love those guys. What happened? I know they're really good at playing their sports. They said
You don't
anything?
know what happened?
No, what's going on?
Huh?
What's happening?
You said what?
I don't know what's happening.
I don't even want to read the quote because it's so stupid.
Well, it's not like the guy himself said it, so you can read it.
But he thought it was him.
He thought
it was Voldemort.
He was quoting Hitler.
But it wasn't Hitler that said it.
I know.
That's good. You misquote Hitler. It's not funny.
And then he posted a bunch of I don't have any problem with Farrakhan. He's just out here. I don't know how much actual pull he's got. He doesn't really like the Jews much either. So maybe Deshaun's just a Farrakhan fan. But yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
Backstory is that Deshaun Jackson posted something on his Instagram, which was a misquote from Hitler about how the Jews run this, that, and the other, and how
the white Jews are trying to hold down the Negro population.
But basically, the black people will realize and wake up one day and fight back or whatever. And it was all bullshit. And
it was it was so misquoted and terrible that it's like Deshaun wrote it himself.
And then when that was racist.
Wasn't racist.
That was racist. You saying he's black and illiterate, you racist son of a bitch.
I'm just saying
he's talking about Deshaun himself.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. We got to be sensitive to everyone right now.
Not to Deshaun right now.
I'm not being sensitive to Deshaun at all. He can eat a bag.
Yeah.
He can eat his hat is what he can do.
He can eat some matzo ball soup and get cultured.
Yeah. Come have some gefilte fish.
God, I kind of missed that shit. Look, so he does that, then everybody basically, in a moment's notice, Twitter gets set on fire, Instagram is all, and everybody's shitting all over Deshaun. And Steven Jackson comes swinging out of nowhere like the Malice in the Palace Part 2 to help his dog.
He's speaking truth.
And he doubles down, and it was...
I was like, God damn it, Steve. You have a thing going on right now. If there was ever a time to be quiet,
up everything that you've been doing.
If he had
whoa.
No,
not everything, but you hurt the cause.
Yeah, we're talking about Deshaun, anti-Semitism, and Steven Jackson. We should be still talking about the movement. That is a regrettable thing.
I said he hurt the cause.
Yeah, I mean that is a regrettable thing. Look. How do I say this as carefully as I possibly can? The quote itself, bad. You should never be quoting Hitler with anything you do. The moment you realize that that's something that you're going to do to make a point, realize you're wrong. Just stop. Whatever you're doing, just stop. Hitler could have a quote about cancer being bad. Don't quote him. Don't
somebody else saying the same shit.
Anyone else, not him. He's at the top of the list as far as people you don't quote. So that was just bad. But I feel more this is going to sound weird, but I feel more bad for Steven Jackson than I do Deshaun Jackson in this situation.
Me too.
Deshaun is just ignorant. And like I said, ignorant doesn't necessarily always have a negative connotation. It kind of does in this situation.
Willfully or intentionally.
Right. You're just seeing somebody who was completely misinformed about everything.
Okay. Yeah, I did.
Sorry.
Hold on, what did he say?
He said,
you're
either willfully or intentionally. And I was like,
hold on.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, no.
All right, while James looks through a thesaurus, I'll continue.
Fuck you.
There's Deshaun speaking on something that he doesn't mean to. Now, afterwards, you hear all the conversations that Steven Jackson's had with Shannon Sharpe. He had a conversation with Van Lathan. And you start hearing more of the context and how they just fucked everything up. Deshaun thought that what he was doing, if you look at the quote there at the end about when we get to the black people rise up or anything, he thought that he was coming from a place of empowerment. You can talk about black empowerment without quoting or misquoting Adolf Hitler. You can talk about black empowerment without having to step on the backs of Jews who have also suffered dramatically over the course of history. I mean, it might not be a more hated group over the course of history than Jew. Just period. Like, that's just, it's bad. Now, the thing is that I will say that of allies that don't look like me, the ones that have been the most down are usually my Jewish brothers and sisters, to be completely honest. As far as y'all got a lot of lawyers, is that racist to say? And they're usually down with the cause. They usually know what it is they need to do to actually.
Max Kellerman.
You got the, yeah. I mean, I ain't gonna list them all, but it's just a.
I didn't know Julian Edelman was a Jew, to be honest.
Yep, and I was about to talk about him.
I love what Julian Edelman did as far as trying to get that ignorance and remove it. Deshaun has talked to, I think, a 94-year-old Holocaust survivor yet now. He got invited to come to DC to actually go to the Holocaust Museum with Julian. There's a Holocaust survivor that wants him to take a tour of Auschwitz over in Europe, and like these things are happening. We're having an actual conversation about it. Historically, when it comes to Black people, there is this cross section that exists between historically woke. I don't like the phrase woke, but woke Black people.
You mean people who have gathered information by themselves and then came to a conclusion that this is probably incorrect?
Some of them are actually intellectual, but
yeah.
there's this cross sections between them and a lot of problematic thoughts about the Jews. And you get into like the Black Israelites, and you get in this, like, when I say the name Louis Farrakhan,
not my favorite person, but. And
I can completely understand why he's not your favorite person. But then again, I watch a lot of Louis Farrakhan videos. I
mean, he seems like a really well-educated, like, he's got some good thoughts. It's just all the anti-Semitic ones I don't agree with.
It's like, it's the same. Who's my ultimate hero is Malcolm X. You follow Malcolm X during the Nation of Islam, pretty problematic things to say about Jews.
Who doesn't have a problematic thing to say about Jews?
Well, that's what it goes to what I said I was going to bring up a little later. I've said a lot of problematic things about a lot of different people. I've said a lot of problematic things about a lot of Jews. I've said a lot of problematic things about a lot of Black people. I think that Jews probably get more, I won't call it wrath, because wrath seems, like when James, you were talking about, you used to get shit for being a Raiders fan. In DC, we call it joning.
Still do.
Yeah. Do y'all, I don't know, being the only DC guy, in PG and in Virginia, do y'all call it joning?
I mean, we did like 15 years
joning,
ago,
cooking.
Like joning, cooking, whatever. But like joning was our DC thing. And it was like, I used to get on Black people nonstop. You get a dark skin, one of my dark skinned friends, midnight, where you at? Like in the darkness. Or when I talk about allyship, a good portion of my friends growing up were Jews. And we used to give each other shit. It used to be racial humor, all kinds of stuff. You joke about the uncomfortable stuff. And it's why, like, I know that I give Ryan a ton of shit the same way that, like, trying to poke him to say the N-word sometimes. But there's just that sort of camaraderie in our pain.
Yeah.
Sort of exists. And I always hated anytime there was a rift between Blacks and Jews, because there's so much we have that's similar in so many ways as far as our struggles go. As far as that, just you look in New York over the course of the last how many months, how many anti-Semitic attacks there have been that don't get talked about. It happens across the country is what you're really seeing. There have been actual attacks on synagogues and Jewish people because of their religion. Akin to what Black people are saying, that there have been attacks because of the color of our skin by police, or these suicides that have been happening all across the country, but Black people hanging themselves in public parks, whatever. There's a camaraderie that exists, or should always exist, especially between Blacks and Jews. I'm not saying it doesn't exist within everybody else. There should be a camaraderie between all of us. But as far as in shared pain and anguish and like being able to try to joke about the uncomfortable shit, I've always seen a camaraderie that exists between our communities, been second to none. I was editing the podcast last weekend when it kept fucking up. And I was on Facebook kind of killing time. And one of my high school friends, a Jewish woman, was catching so much shit because she was saying Black Lives Matter stuff. She was getting the K word thrown in her messenger. She was getting all this, you dirty Jew, blah, 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 blah. And she put him on blast. So you know what I did? I said, all right, F this. We found out where everybody worked. She sent emails to their employers. We took screenshots of everything. We started going back and forth. There's a long list of things that I'm going right back to these assholes, fighting on her behalf or with her. That's my ally, true ally. The last thing you need to do is to start ranking whose pain outweighs another, or start to try to divide and throw this rift that shouldn't exist.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, we were talking, I think last week or 2 weeks ago about, Malcolm X was only like 50 years ago. Like it wasn't that long. The fact that Deshaun Jackson is going to meet a Holocaust survivor, that was like 70 years ago. It wasn't that long ago. So like, it's like people seem to think everything is in the past. Like, no, these struggles are similar and also still present for a lot of people. And to have people who want to step in the middle and say like, no, our pain is greater, that's kind of stupid.
Yeah.
Because you have a bigger army. You have a bigger army against injustice if you don't try and split them apart and have them fight each other. Come on.
Ryan, read your text messages. Read it out loud and say who it's from.
I asked the group, what's the K word? Fuck you.
You sheltered motherfucker. You. I'm just like, it's a good thing.
There's a word similar to the N-word that people use for the Jewish population.
Very much so.
You've never heard it?
No.
All right.
Well, I'll have Ryan explain it to you because I'm not going there.
Yeah, we'll do it in a separate video.
We should do ASOS breaks down racial attack.
And we have a nut for you.
Brazil nuts.
All right. You know what? Hey, I just came up with this idea.
Uh-oh.
So you remember how we discussed that we should all go to the African American Museum?
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's do the whole thing that Julia Edelman said for Deshaun. Let's go to both.
If I can be completely honest, it's hard pressed to get me to go back to the Holocaust Museum.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
I haven't been.
Fourth grade is the first time I went, which I don't know why the fuck they did that. Fourth grade had me in tears. I was terrified. And to think that, when you look through it, even as a kid, you start time is weird when you're a kid, right? Like things seem so long ago or things seem so far away. But I remember when you're walking through, there would be old, I don't know if they were Holocaust survivors. I know they were around that same age that would have been alive when it happened. And you see their reactions when you're walking through. And you see the looks on their face. And I still remember that, even as a kid, you see the looks on their faces when they're looking through the exhibits. And you get through, especially the area where they're showing the clothes and the other things that these people wear, the artifacts of, and you then realize it's not that long ago. And when you hear when I talk about the fear that I have as a black man walking down the street, or when the blue and red lights come on behind me, you have Jewish people that thoroughly understand and know and have a realized fear that there's somebody that wants to round them all up and exterminate them. And they have a country in Israel, whatever, if we want to get into geopolitics as far as Zionism or anything, more than want to have that debate. But the idea that there's a country that exists, and regardless of what you think about the politics of it, there are other countries that say that we want to wipe this place off the map is a terrifying thought. The fact that, like I said, there's anti-Semitic violent things that are happening in this country that don't get talked about.
The Klan doesn't like the Jews much either.
No, that's what I'm saying. As far as allies,
I don't like anybody really.
Those guys in the hoods are after us too.
Yeah.
That's why my bed sheets are red. No white bed sheets in this house. For real. Most Jewish families won't have white bed sheets in their house. So.
We got to reply to to James's text message.
Oh my God.
All right. Declare it up. He definitely said the racist word. Mauricio, our former host, is a racist. He said the K word, and he put his own little spin on it. We're so glad to not have him a part of this podcast.
Don't lie.
He said the K word is Kadeen.
Yeah, he said your name is the K word.
Yes, he did.
That's fucking funny.
That's good.
All right, but
I mean,
all
I'm
right.
a
So when we
Uh,
go to the African American History Museum,
Yeah,
I'll go with that one.
we'll make
It's
a
fine.
weekend.
It's
I'll
literally
go,
it's on the same street.
I'll go with you because I mean, they've updated the exhibit since I was there like a decade ago. So
Yeah, like I mean, it feels weird not like to only go to one and not the other.
yeah.
Like,
Well,
so,
let me ask you that. As far as from a historical standpoint, like I've been telling everybody that they still need to be focused. Like, this is gonna sound fucked up, problematic, whatever. I don't give a shit. The whole like minorities do have to stick together. Everything else, right now, still like I've always said, Black Lives Matter, and that's the movement that matters more than anything else right now. But there still needs to be an eye out and making sure that everybody's taken care of. But when it comes to when I tell black people that they need to understand the history, when I tell white people that in order to be a good ally, you need to understand our history. There are a lot of people around here, Deshaun Jackson, case in point, that don't know enough about recent history when it comes to Jewish people. That don't know enough. And if you want to talk about history, just look at recent history when it comes to Jewish people, and then try to go back and look at things in the historical context and realize how fucked over they've been. It's hard. It's a hard learn.
We built those giant pyramids that people take pictures of in Egypt.
Jesus was a Jew. Right? People stop forgetting that shit, right? Like you need to like if you want to understand history, like really start doing your history.
Yeah.
So like,
understand.
James, have you seen Schindler's List?
no.
Oh, or The Pianist. Oh, rough.
Another rough one. If you have you ever read what is it, Silent Night, Elie Wiesel?
Yeah.
Nope.
That's a kid's book. You can read it as a picture book.
That's one of those movies. That's
It's
one of those
brutal.
Fucking as a kid, just whoa. Okay.
It's about a mouse who's in a concentration camp. It's
Anne Frank. Diary of Anne Frank.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I've cracked more than one joke on Anne Frank. I'm not gonna deny that.
I mean, but it's good.
Calling a pack of hot dogs that a Jewish guy makes Anne Frank's is fucking funny. I don't care.
I thought it was good. So I mean, that's the thing.
I thought you were gonna leave that
If you
on Spotify.
No, look.
If
Here's
you
what I'm
I
gonna say.
thought you were leaving that one.
No, because here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna tell you that I've said problematic shit. I'm saying that like I've always tried to do it in a funny way. I've always tried to do it where it's not just the lowest hanging fruit. And I've also tried to do it in the sense of building camaraderie, especially with my Jewish compadres like Ryan, who if he also says or gives me shit about being black, I'm not here other than to laugh at his shit. Like there is a certain element that we have to laugh at the shit that makes us uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That being said, I am going to be a lot more careful with where and when I say that shit. But I'm not going to deny that I said it. That'd be hypocritical of me. I'm just trying to be better.
I mean, but here's the thing. People that say problematic shit who are doing it out of hate or ignorance, that's one thing. You came up with that because clearly you know the history of.
And I love your hot dogs,
Oh.
pause.
But you understand the history of it. Like if you're, like if I see Dave Chappelle say something problematic towards the Jews, I know that he knows his history like bar none, and he does it because he understands the history. He wouldn't be able to do it otherwise. Some people just throw shit out there that it's just blatantly racist because they're hateful people, and those are the people that can't be making those jokes, and you can feel it when they say it. Like there's no, or read it. Like there's no, there's no context that things can be said in which you can't understand the way they are meant. Like that's almost impossible. So, it is what it is. We'll move forward. Alex, together.
Okay,
I mean, like 40 years ago, I'd have been a little bit more olive-skinned. Unfortunately, we started tainting our bloodlines, but it's okay.
You mean improving them?
Yeah.
All right.
Now I can't go outside for more than 5 minutes.
We're moving the fuck on.
Like you need seasoning, like James.
No. Fuck you. We're moving on. All right. Now, there's a lot of bad shit that happened in the NFL this week.
Hey, you got it. All right. When you're speaking, anytime you do this,
Okay.
like you move, the mic cuts out.
Okay. You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you better now. I'm just letting you know.
All right.
Like if you do the entire intro and you're doing this the whole fucking time, we can't hear what the intro.
We're keeping it going.
I'm introducing a new topic.
You want the podcast to be shorter, right? Stop interrupting me.
Hey, look, you're doing a good job. You're cutting me off.
Yeah.
Continue making forward.